we'd take a minute to look at the NBC Montana coverage and see if it was any less biased than the KBZK news coverage we looked at earlier.
A proposed gravel pit in Gallatin County is sparking outcry from local residents concerned about health impacts. Here's the area we're talking about, nearly 130 acres of open land near homes in Gallatin Gateway.
How many homes are we talking here? Like 15 or 1,500?
NBC Montana's Michael Sanaskoy is working for you, talking with locals surprised and upset over the plans and asking state officials about the permitting process.
Do you think they'll take the time to interview any neighbors who aren't surprised and upset but are actually supportive of the gravel pit?
This is a copy of the notice that shocked Gallatin Gateway residents. It outlines plans for the TMC Corporation to dig a nearly 130-acre gravel pit.
It was a surprise to everyone in the neighborhood that the blacks and TMC trucking was doing this. We had no warning whatsoever.
I can't recall receiving one warning letter for my input when a neighbor was going to build a home near our border.
Doug and his wife Ruth have lived in their home for 50 years. They say if the gravel pit is approved, they'll need to move due to health concerns.
Away from the place we've built, our friends, family, wonderful neighbors, and all the wildlife and nature, all the things that are precious in life.
Doug showed me just how close the gravel pit would sit near his property and how much land it would take up.
It would be 129.9 acres, and it extends past the house with the red roof to Blacks Road, out to the highway.
Not what he says here that bothers me, it's what he doesn't say. And he leaves out the fact that after I met with him and his wife in their home, I went to TMC and we discussed major changes to the project just to accommodate them. Some issues that would be costly for TMC, who was more than happy to make the changes.
Residents are concerned about water loss impacting their wells, silicone dust damaging their lungs, and road danger due to gravel trucks.
Herein lies the real issue, folks. And that is, you can be concerned about and make a claim of concern about anything you want and not have any evidence to back it up. And I've been asking for over a year for evidence of any water pollution or death dust or roadway carnage, and it doesn't matter. These people just don't want a gravel pit, and they're willing to say anything and make any claim in order to stop it. And that's what I'm up against.
Gateway Conservation Alliance President Tracy Gibbons believes it doesn't make sense for the Montana Department of Environmental Quality to approve the gravel pit due to Montana law designed to keep mines away from homes and water supply.
We don't really understand why they would put a mine here. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, it makes perfect sense to TMC that's been mining since before you and I were born. And it made perfect sense to the Montana Department of Environmental Quality. And it makes perfect sense to my family since we were here before Montana was a state. But I'm sure since you don't understand it, it's probably wrong, since you did just move here after all.
Gibbons helped rally over 250 people at the Gallatin Gateway Community Center where Montana DEQ hosted a meeting about the project in late July. But Doug Rand says it didn't go well.
The audience responded very emotionally. There was a lot of shouting and outrage at the way the meeting was conducted.
He is right about that. That meeting was crazy. People were yelling at TMC and the Department of Environmental Quality, saying, "You're liars," and "I don't believe you." It was embarrassing. And I think a lot of it was because they all got worked up by a bunch of false claims that were started by the Gateway Conservation Alliance.
Doug says representatives outlined the project, but didn't give details about the progression of it and only allowed questions and not comments. I reached out to Montana DEQ for comment on the project. I received an email back saying DEQ reviews the permit application for compliance with the Open Cut Mining Act and conducts a Montana Environmental Policy Act analysis. The department continues to accept public comment on the proposal through email or mail and takes public comment into consideration. DEQ must issue the permit if it meets the requirements of the act. What's kind of the next steps now following this meeting, and just what's the next steps of action?
Yeah, well, we've had open communication with the family whose land the proposed mine is on. We've come up with some really great alternatives that are a win-win for everyone. However, if those alternatives aren't accepted by the family, then we'll do anything in our means to stop this pit from going in at this specific location.
The thing is we aren't interested in working with people who would lie and manipulate and coerce and just spread mistrust in our community. We're not interested in being in business with you people. We just want to exercise our freedom to make our property better for the future. That's it.
Gibbons and residents plan to speak out during the Gallatin County Community.
Anyone surprised that it's a Subaru? Sorry to all the awesome people who drive Subarus.
Commission meeting on August 15th. I'll continue to follow this story and let you know what happens next. In Gallatin Gateway, Michael Santoscoy, NBC Montana.
Well, what do you think? Do you think they represented this story from both perspectives? Do you think this is good journalism or not? And why wouldn't they talk to the mining company or my family, the property owners? Why wouldn't they require some evidence for the claims that were being made? Are they just acting as a mouthpiece for these activists? For the handful of people that are still watching NBC Montana, maybe you should just stop. For everybody else, love you, appreciate you, and Godspeed.